Hey everyone, what's up? How's it going? This is Finite MTG, and today I will be bringing you guys the last draft I'm recording of the Artifact Cube. This was another sweet one, part of my 6 trophy run. Bit of a spoiler there, but had to work it in somehow. So with that all out of the way, let's dive into the picks. Alright, so pack 1, pick 1 here. Lots of Tezzerets in this cube, and pretty good heuristic is to take them early, especially the Dimir ones. There's actually another Dimir one, I think from maybe it's like a buy a box promo or something like that, and it's just a very, very powerful card in this format. And Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas is no slouch either. I mean, the other really powerful cards in the pack, something like the Immortal Sun would be very good. Opportunistic Dragon I think is quite strong. But yeah, we're just going to pick up the Tezzeret here and see where things go. Alright, pack 1, pick 2. This happened last time too. We are past Urza's Saga, which is the card that I believe is the strongest in the whole format. So again, the card you should not be past. And right next to it is Treasure Chest, the worst card in the whole format, the card that should always go 15th. So very funny to see them next to each other. But yeah, we did take the Urza's Saga here. Good cards in the pack, not going to think about them very much for now. Pack 1, pick 3, things start getting more difficult. There's not anything super clear cut that screams like very powerful to me. Dollhouse was pretty good in our last deck. Lots of colorless cards as always that can make any deck. Though here we just ended up going with the Goldmire Bridge. We already have a Tezzeret, so bridges are going to be a high priority for us. They also work to make our Urza's Saga a little better. Our constructs are going to be larger, so nice one to turn into a 5/5 and just a nice card to supplement our constructs. Alright, pack 1, pick 4. We have another powerful card in the pack here. Granted, we have, something like Eldrazi Monument, which can be really good if you build around it, but something like Noxious Gearhulk, I mean, we already have the Tezzeret, and we're thinking that we're going to be playing black, and this is a really powerful 2-for-1. Comes down and has a big effect on the game, so yeah. Noxious was my pick here, looking to be some kind of base black deck, maybe blue-black or black splashing blue, maybe another color too. And unfortunately here, our mana rock in the pack is not going to fix our mana, but it is going to ramp us, of course. And yeah, Everflowing Chalice, really nice card you can play on turn 2. Not going to be taking a bridge or a Sacred Foundry over it when they seem to be off color currently. And yeah, some other goodies in the pack, but happy with the Chalice. Alright, next up here. So this pick, I'm not sure about this one in hindsight, but I wanted to take a card that I thought would be a good source of card advantage no matter where we end up. And that is Tezzeret's Gambit, and sure, we already do have a Tezzeret to go with it, but I mean, really, this is just pay 2 life for Divination. I'm not sure how often the counter synergies will come up in this format, but it's a reasonable card. Alright, next up, pack 1, pick 7. So we are thinking we're going to be playing black. I have tried to play with Makar. I do not like this card. Basically, you're not going to get to untap unless this thing has a good attack or can crew a vehicle, and 2 power on a 4 mana creature is not very good for crewing vehicles, and 4 mana 2/3 is not very good at attacking and then, surviving. So we were more interested here by quite a bit in Taste of Death. This card is a lot like a sweeper, just a triple edict for each player, barter and blood in a half, if you will. So yeah, I like this card a good amount for the kind of controlling deck we are trying to build. Alright, next up, pack 1, pick 8. We have a very nice interactive card here. We already took a Goldmire Bridge, but this time we're going to be taking Unexpectedly Absent. And like I said, this card, just a very nice piece of interaction. I think it was recently cut from the Vintage Cube on Magic Online, which, crying shame and all that. Don't really understand cutting a card as nice and flexible as this. Alright, pack 1, pick 9. We have the Immortal Sun somehow come all the way around the table. But even though it's a strong card, at this point we are interested in a gold mirror. Seems like black-white is going to be on the table for us, splashing blue. So in that case, gold mirror is a nice ramp card for us. And somehow we get one of the better cards from the Urza's Saga pack. One of the better cards in the cube, all the way back around, Angel of the Ruins. This is not really a card you want to plane cycle, because if you get this thing to enter the battlefield, it's just an enormous, enormous swing. 5/7 flyer is huge, and the trigger exiling 2 things is just ridiculous. This card is so good. Should never go this late. Alright, pack 1, pick 11. Seems like white is on the table, and even though Dollhouse is a nice one with the Angel, we're going to go ahead and pick up Glass Casket. Just try to lower the curve, some cheap interactive cards, and try to survive until we get our expensive Haymakers. Pack 1, pick 12. I think here I ended up taking Master's Call, but I mean this pack is not a very exciting one. Masterwork of Ingenuity was a card that Jakob considered unplayable, I think for good reason. Like even in the Nut equipment deck, a lot of the equipment are legendary, so this card is just always awkward. Pack 1, pick 13. Here we take Mirage Mirror. Voltaic Servant is a very sad card to show up in this kind of cube, but that's what happens when you, have a very large cube with a pretty thin band of synergy. And Wishclaw Talisman, yeah, probably not too many combos like Storm in this cube. Alright, pack 1, pick 14. Never taking Ornithopter, so guess we'll take this Shrine. Could be reasonable, we are in white. Pack 1, pick 15, we get Milliken, which is actually a reasonable pickup for us. It's something we could consider playing. Alright, pack 2, pick 1 here. Well, there's another Tezzeret, and it is another Dimir one, but this is not the one that I was talking about previously. I guess there are minimum 3 Dimir Tezzerets. It's also not the card we're going to take out of the pack, because once again we have Dig Site Engineer here, and Dig Site is just completely ridiculous magic card. If you saw the last draft video, then you know the kinds of crazy things this card can do. We already have the Urza's Saga, which pairs nicely with this, so we're going to be looking for artifacts that cost 0 and 1 to try to maximize our dig site and give us some flexibility with the Urza's Saga. Alright, pack 2, pick 2. This pick was an interesting one. At this point, again, we are thinking that we're going to be probably black, white, splash, blue. And so while the best card in the pack is Rise and Shine, I'm thinking that's not currently on the table. I think this is probably a mistake. I think I'm supposed to take Rise and Shine, even if I'm thinking it's not on the table. Like, this is such a strong reason to play blue. Another interesting card for us could be the Merciless Eviction. We already have a similar kind of Wrath effect. We actually ended up taking the Traxos here, which is just a huge amount of stats for 4 mana. Reasonable card, though I do think Rise and Shine is probably a better choice here. Alright, next up, pack 2, pick 3. In this pack, there's not anything extremely exciting going on. I mean, there's Fane the Broker, which is a cool card, recently made it onto Magic Online. Golos, which is funny to see in a cube where green is not supported, but also a fun challenge to try to get to activate it. Otherwise, there's like Teshar for the KCI deck. I believe here we just ended up taking the Razortide Bridge. That's going to help us enable this splash for the pack 1, pick 1 Tezzeret. Alright, pack 2, pick 4, we get a super underwhelming pack here. Really nothing that I want to play, nothing that I want to build around. We ended up just going here with Commit as just a medium blue interactive card. I mean, so much worse than Unexpectedly Absent, but still a reasonable card that we can put in our deck. It's a little bit rough if we are splashing blue, but we'll see. Alright, pack 2, pick 5. So we have Scuttlemutt, which is a nice source of ramp and fixing, but Wayfarer's Bauble is going to be a similar effect, but it works very nicely with our Urza's Saga, and it works very nicely with our 3/3 that will make us some car instructs. So, of course, have to take the Bauble here. Alright, next up, pack 2, pick 6. This time we're going to take a card that performed very nicely for me throughout this format, which is Cathar Commando. Great interactive card that can also attack for 3 in a pinch. This card is best used for cashing it in to blow something scary up. Alright, next up, pack 2, pick 7 here. So this was a weird one. there's nothing super exciting in the pack. We could have taken like a Master Splicer, but at this point I'm a little worried about the mana, and fetch lands are very strong, even though black-red is not currently something I'm looking to do. Could be interesting if we pick up a Duretti, or more likely if we pick up a shock land that could allow us to fix our mana from this juncture. So that was my pick there. Next up, pack 2, pick 8. So here we have something very strange happen. We're already thinking about playing blue a little more heavily than we were because of that commit, not to mention that Rise and Shine, which we probably should have taken. But there's also a Whirler Rogue here, and this card is very, very powerful. So this is a reason for me to play blue, and I'm getting pulled in that direction now. Next up here, there's another very powerful blue card in the Scholar of the Lost Trove, though that said, it is 7 mana, and we are really looking for cheap cards to maximize our cards that care about cheap artifacts, and Aether Spellbomb fits the bill very nicely there, so going to be our pick over the Scholar of the Lost Trove. And here we have pack 2, pick 10. Here's our chance to pick up a nice big flyer that gets something back from the graveyard. So we'll take Shroom here. It's not competing with any cheap artifacts, and it's even cheaper than the Scholar. Alright, pack 2, pick 11. So we're thinking at this point maybe the black is going to end up being the splash after all. Maybe blue and white are going to be the main colors, so why not pick up a Hannah? This card is pretty slow, but it does produce some good value over time. Next up here, pack 2, pick 12. I really am not interested in any of these cards. I mean, I love KCI, don't get me wrong. But here we're just going to be taking Srom's Expertise. This card can do work in the right deck, particularly like an aggressive deck with a lot of equipments. It's going to care about the 3 bodies, and the discount is really relevant there. Next up, pack 2, pick 13, we get a Precursor Golem. And this card, maybe not the most exciting, and sure, there is a drawback on it, but this is a lot of power and toughness for only 5 mana. So the opponent really does need to have an answer, or this thing is just going to attack. Sure, they can have a 3/4 or bigger, and that can be their quote-unquote answer, but a lot of the time, this card is just going to be really good value, a very imposing threat for the opponent. Next up here, pack 2, pick 14, believe we take a Crystalline Crawler over the Whip, and last here, we get a Mindless Automaton. Alright, here, pack 3, pick 1. Number of intriguing options in the pack. One of them would be like Talisman. The Caravan's reasonable too, and Polluted Delta. Well, we already took a fetch land, so, and we took it pretty highly. So I think that does indicate the respect I have for them. But in this pick, we're actually taking the Ingenious Smith. It's a really nice 2-for-1 cheap creature that gets on the board early, and is going to grow over the course of the game and become an imposing threat too. All right. Pack 3, pick 2 here. This pack is really not something that I'm too excited by. Lots of cards that I don't really care about, but we do have an Ornithopter of Paradise here. Once again, we are looking to fill out the lower end of the curve, and this is a nice way of doing that. Fixing our mana, ramping us, going to be more appealing for us than a Silver Mirror, or either on Color Bridge here. And pack 3, pick 3, there is the Dimir Tezzeret we were talking about. Not the first one, not the second one, but the third. Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge. So this thing just starts with a ridiculous amount of loyalty, and it +2s to drain your opponent. I guess you can't quite see that here, but it +2s to drain your opponent for the number of artifacts you control, which is ridiculous. There's some other text on there, but that's really all you need. Just get a bunch of artifacts down, whether they're bridges, tokens, non-tokens, whatever, and then just drain your opponent out of the game. Also keeps you alive, which is very important, and because it has so much loyalty, it's really, really hard to deal with. So yeah, this is a super nutty card for this environment. Alright, pack 3, pick 4. So this pack, there's nothing super exciting. There's a Volcanic Island if we were trying to do that, but we aren't. Instead, we are interested here in an Origin Spellbomb. The first Thraben Inspector, if you will. This card is pretty reasonable. Not an amazing card, but a very solid one that we are happy to pick up here to support our cheap are cards that care about cheap artifacts. Alright, next up here, pack 3, pick 5. We do have some goodies in this pack, one of them being that Tezzeret the Seeker. Though this card, even though it is strong, is not going to be as tempting for us as this on-color fetch land. It's a very nice pickup for us. See if we can maybe pick up a shock land for it, or just, you know, have a nice kind of black-white pathway in our deck. Well, lucky us, we managed to pick up the Godless Shrine here, the next pick. Number of other good cards in the pack to be sure, but this really solidifies our mana since we are looking to play a 3-color deck. We are, I think, officially blue, white, splash, black, so pretty happy to get some nice fixing here. Alright, next up, pack 3, pick 7. Here we end up taking Portable Hole. This card can whiff decent amount. It's not always active, but it's a pretty reasonable card. It's cheap, it's an artifact, so we'll take some more interaction, and if nothing else, it's a good card out of the sideboard. Alright, next up here, pack 3, pick 8. Well, we are guaranteed to be in blue. We have plenty of artifacts to animate, so why not pick up an animator here? Turning a bridge or what have you into a 5/5 is, you know, a very real way to swing a game in your favor, so nice card to get there. In pack 3, pick 9, I just mentioned that we had a good number of bridges, and since we do, why not take this Sojourner's Companion? It can help fix our mana, or in a pinch, it can be a 4/4. I don't think this card is ever really going to cost us more than like 4 mana, maybe 5 at the most. We just have a pretty good artifact count, as of course you would expect to in this cube, so the Companion is a good one for us here. Alright, next up, pack 3, pick 10. Yeah, this pack doesn't really have anything too interesting for us. A couple decent aggressive cards, but we'll take the deck of many things. It's very slow, but maybe it's an acceptable card in a control mirror match or something like that. Alright, next up here, pack 3, pick 11. Very fortunately, we are able to get a Razortide Bridge. We have some bridges already, but we're never complaining about picking up another. This is going to make our Sojourner's Companion better and just generally make our artifact synergies stronger. Pack 3, pick 12. Here we just pick up a Masterful Replication. Ugin's Nexus is a very, very cool card. I don't think I have too many ways to sacrifice it though, which means, you know, it's not really going to do the thing in my deck. Replication is a card that, under certain circumstances, I could see playing it. In pack 3, pick 13. Here we're just going to take a Grant Architect. This is a nice ramp card. We have a lot of expensive cards in our deck, not least of all that 5/7 Angel, so ramping into that card could be a very strong thing to do. Pack 3, pick 14. Here we're just going to take this Mycosynth Golem. Sure, why not? In pack 3, pick 15, we get Golden Egg, which we did play in our previous deck. This is a card that I like a good amount. Probably should not be going 15th here. Alright, so this is how we did end up building the deck. Golden Egg did not make it in after all. And sure enough, we are base blue-white, splashing black for the 2 Tezzerets and the Shroom. Pretty reasonable mana fixing, lots of ramp. A little bit short on the crazy Haymakers compared to the previous draft, but overall still looking at a very strong pile of cards. Not super controlling necessarily either. Notice that we're not playing any Wraths, but we can apply some good pressure early too. So nice, I don't know, Esper mid-range deck here, and we'll see how the matches go. Alright, and on to the matches. Here we are for game number 1 of round 1. And this hand, it's a little bit slow, but probably still worth keeping. Angel of the Ruins can always be plain cycled here, even though it's not ideal. And drawing that Grand Architect is a pretty big game. That card is going to be able to ramp us pretty nicely here. For now, our play is Ornithopter of Paradise. Opponent seems to be maybe a little low on lands here. And we do drop that Grand Architect. And they do have Daretti. I think that is going to require either a commit or an absent from us. just to get that thing off the battlefield. Because if we cast Angel of the Ruins and they just down ticket to kill the Angel, we didn't really accomplish too much. Oh yeah, I guess here we, thanks to Precursor Golem, we can hold up. Is that how that works? Or is that not how that works? We can make something blue. Yeah. I guess we're just holding up Absent with Ornithopter. Yeah, there we go. So we just Absent on draw step. Opponent unfortunately does have the Molten Frame to blow up all of the golems here. But the good news, remember they are light on lands, and the Angel hits two things, so we can actually hit their Silver Mirror and their Mistvault Bridge. It's a little rude to play Ponza, but you know, you just got to go for the best line. And even if they do have another land somehow to play the Duretti and minus it, kill the Angel, we have Ornithopter, Ether, Spellbomb to bounce it and replay it. So, pretty rude play from us, but also kind of what was necessary for us to win the game. All right, here we are for game number 2, round 1. And we have another pretty good hand here. Leading on Island. The opponent is the Glimmer Void and Milliken, so presumably doing better on mana this game. Here we get to play out the Ornithopter once again. They have a treasure map, sure. And I think we are going to use our portable hole here, and then make a construct. Yep. I think I got rid of Milliken, though I can't be sure here. Yeah. Even though treasure map is a more powerful card, eventually we just want to deny them some mana early on. Once again, playing Ponza, I guess. So here, we're just going to make our constructs, as always. And what are we going to find? Spellbomb, sure, blue one. And that can just bounce their mirror, which, okay, well, I guess we didn't need to do that. Just putting a bunch of stuff onto the board. We still have the ability to Spellbomb here from the Ornithopter, just like last game. But the opponent, I guess, did not want to deal with the constructs. Very reasonable, and we're on to round number 2. Alright, here we are back for round number 2. This one is significantly longer than round number 1. We have a good hand here. Opponent is going to go turn 1 Vault Scourge, and we get to turn 1 Wayfarer's Bauble. Really not sure about this Wayfarer's Bauble card. Thought it was pretty good. Maybe it's better in like Commander or something, because, I don't know, just the 3 whole mana to activate it, it ends up adding up more than you would expect. So here, opponent goes for a Grafted Wargear. They're going to suit up the Vault Scourge, of course. Attack for 4. It's kind of funny. It's not very often that it's better not to attack with Copter, but here we are. And this is going to give us a nice window here for the Cathar Commando, but also the Commit to Memory eventually, because all we have to do is interact with the Grafted Wargear and the Vault Scourge will also die. So here we're just passing the turn. This time the opponent crews instead of attacking, which is very, very strange. I guess maybe they were suspicious because we had mana up, but at this point I think my play is just to blow up the Copter. That card is super threatening, and doing it this way, you know, they don't get in for any damage and they don't get to loot. So we still accomplished something this turn. Now they go for the Lightning Greaves on the Vault Scourge, which is, you know, still not a huge deal because we're just looking to remove that Grafted Wargear. And this turn we do have the 4 mana we need. Opponent goes for Grief, and so this is a rough one for us. We really need Angel of the Ruins here to come down, and I don't think it comes down quite yet. Let's double check here. So currently we have 4 mana in play in lands. We have Ornithopter and Chalice, so we're up to 6. We have the Bauble that we can't crack. We have Goldmere, which is not a land. So in order to preserve the Angel of the Ruins, which is going to be, you know, it's just one of our best cards, and it would get rid of both equipment and also remove that Vault Scourge in the process, we do have to commit this Grief here, which is unfortunately not how we wanted to spend the turn, but and now we draw Shroom, just not how we wanted things to go. I don't know if we had anything else in the graveyard. Yeah, I guess not. So Shroom, I think we did have mana for it this turn, but we just wanted to once again lay up here for that Angel. Means we're taking more damage, which is not great. Opponent has Treasure Keeper, and of course any creature they play now, they can just give haste. So we're going to crack the Bauble. Cannot find a Swamp, which is a little bit unfortunate. I mean, sure, the Ornithopter is a black source for the Shroom, but if it dies, then, you know, that's not mana that we have access to anymore. And so we're actually chumping already, even though we just played out the Mirror. And now we do get to go for the Angel, and I mean, the Angel's always very good, right? So here we just, I think, remove the 2 equipment. Yeah, I don't have much of a choice about that. Can't get the Treasure Keeper, and the Vault Scourge, of course, dies in the process. Now the opponent has Grief. I think, what do they get rid of here? They get rid of Shroom, sure. But I believe Tezzeret can just get Shroom back. Yeah, with a -3. So here, what is our play? It looks like we are dropping Tezzeret, and once again, having to tap the Ornithopter because we don't have black mana in a different way. A little bit awkward, and could potentially punish us here. Opponent has a free attack with the Menace creature, and so they hit the Tezzeret down back to 4, but I mean, this Tezzeret, this is one of the other better cards in our deck. It just has so much loyalty and does so many things. We don't really want to redraw a hand. That seems like it would be very dangerous in this spot, but we do pick the Shroom back up, and it's time to cast that one. We get the Gold Mirror back here. And we're in okay shape. Not amazing. Opponent is going to put counters on their Grief. Not attack this turn, which is very good for our Tezzeret, which is going to plus. And here, at this point, we're just trying to end the game as quickly as possible, try to kill the opponent here, because the Tezzeret's going to get killed anyway, so it's not worth leaving the stuff back to try to block it. They're assembling their own force over here, but our life total is in a good enough place that we can just try to kill them. Unfortunate that we don't have a 2-turn clock here. We're only attacking for 10 and they're at 21. But remember too that Feign has a bunch of abilities. One of those, of course, being that you can untap it. So they can actually spend 4 mana here, create a 2/1 flyer. And they can do that by sacking an artifact, but they can also just like remove a counter. So we'll see what they go with here, because regardless they are going to want to use Feign for something. They are going to untap it, probably remove a counter, make a treasure. Yep. So, not in great shape here. I guess we can't see what they're attacking. And then this Armix, this card is pretty annoying because X is the number of artifacts you control plus the number of artifact cards in your graveyard. So it's really hard to do anything to reduce the X because they already have a few artifacts there. They also control another couple. So they do kill the Shroom here, which is unfortunate to say the least. It looks like the Menace creature is coming in at Tezzeret, and the Armix is too, so there's actually not a way for us to save it here. So Tezzeret dies, and the opponent plays Bolas's Citadel, which is definitely not an ideal card for them on such a low life total. They do have a Heartless Pillage here, which gets rid of our Portable Hole. And then they play a Hangerback Walker X0. I don't know if that one makes sense to me. I think it's just better to draw it, but I get it. I mean, maybe there's something on top that's exciting. I don't know. I think it's a good enough card to draw that, especially with the Feign, that yeah, I think that's probably a mistake. So here we attack, basically thinking, okay, the opponent's at a low life total. They kind of have to block this Angel. The Gold Mirror is not really on blocking duty, so we can probably sneak this in here. And sure enough, we do get in for our 1 point of damage, which is not irrelevant. Opponent goes down to 5 here. They attack for 7. They get to kill our Angel, which is horrible for us, of course. But our deck is still full of gas. We have Urza's Saga going up to Chapter 2, so it's Karnstruck time shortly here. And Whirler Rogue is also nice. They're actually dead, unless they Armix the Whirler Rogue, but they have been very diligent killing my threats with Armix here, so it's unlikely that they won't kill this. But if they don't, then we get to make a big enough construct that we can just lethal them here. So once again, Feign is just going to do its thing, turn a +1/+1 counter into a 2/1 flyer effectively, which is pretty darn good. And yeah, whatever they drew, they pretty much have to pitch. Emissary of Despair, sure, they have to get rid of the Swirler Rogue or they die. So they do correctly choose to do that. Now we get to make a large construct, threaten to block the Armix, but I'm sure it'll get sacked to Feign, as everything always does. And yeah, they make another 2/1 flyer. So now we're going to make another construct, and we find Origin Spellbomb, which is just a cantrip here, you know, not too bad. Kind of like the first Thraben Inspector, if you will. And now we have Glass Casket here, which is finally going to get rid of that problematic Feign. And the Feign can sack itself, so they're probably going to untap and do that. Regardless, they are going to untap and do something. I guess they're just going to make another 2/1 flyer, which also makes sense. Construct, of course, is going to be a lethal threat, so we'll start putting them in chump block mode. And the Thopters from the Whirler Rogue are going to be good blockers for their 1/1 flyers. So they have Crystalline Giant, they find Menace. If they found Death Touch, it would be kind of annoying for us, but even so, I mean, we just got to drop the Grand Architect here, go for a big attack. We considered attacking with some Thopters and maybe even like some other stuff here, because the Grand Architect can make stuff blue and then pump it, but I don't think we had lethal here, so we're just going to, again, continue to make them chump. The Citadel not doing very much with them on such a low life total. Maybe playing some extra lands here and there, but not much beyond that. So they have Draugr's Helm, which is fine. And yeah, I mean, I think at this point we just attack all and they die. Yeah. Love to attack with the Ornithopter too. It's not even like a send a message attack, it's like a real thing because the Grand Architect can give it power. So pretty good game there. Not sure we played everything perfectly, but we were definitely on the back foot for a while, and once again our powerful cards really bailed us out. So they have turn 1 Vault Scourge here as we mulligan. We don't really have too much gas at this point. They have Mask of Memory too, which is scary. And then we have Ornithopter here. And they have Crystalline Giant. I'm sure they're going to gain their 1 life. And their Giant has Death Touch. I think we go for Traxos here. Yeah, I think we're just trying to kill them, and the Traxos is very scary. We have the Everflowing Chalice next turn. I believe we have mana to play that and still crack the Cathar Commando. So the opponent gets in here for damage. Questionable whether that's better than killing the Traxos, but that's what they did. So now here, it's probably correct just for the kind of deck they're trying to play. We have Glass Casket. We're going to remove their Giant. And we still have Cathar Commando and mana to activate it. And we still have Chalice to untap the Traxos again. And so here, I think for a second, and pretty much I'm deciding between which thing I want to blow up. So the Mask of Memory and the Vault Scourge don't actually do too much with the Ornithopter in play, right? They have to play something else that's threatening, or this just kind of bounces off of the Ornithopter. So at first I'm thinking I'll just blow up the Vault Scourge, then the equipments don't do anything. But then I think, well, if I blow up the sword, then my Ornithopter bounces off these two, and it's, arguably better. So this is what I end up deciding to do. They get their land here. I block, and then I blow up the sword. And they don't have any creature. If they had another creature, they could punish me. But another creature kind of punishes either line, so we're fine. Anyway, we get to cast Tezzeret here. Tezzeret is a historic spell, which means Traxos is going to untap. We're going to ding their life total, attack them for a lot of damage. I mean, Traxos is just a terrifying card, and so is the Tezzeret. So, and opponent has Grief, get rid of our Chalice, so our Traxos is not necessarily untapping until you recall that the Tezzeret can allow that to happen anyway. So here the opponent plays a Hangerback Walker, and yeah, we're just going to minus the Tezzeret, get back this Chalice. We're going to play a big Chalice here. Doesn't really matter how big it is, it's just there to untap the Traxos. Whoops. And the opponent has to chump. They go to 1, and they scoop. So yeah, good match against mono black. The Haymakers of the Esper value deck are very, very strong though. Alright, here we are back for the finals. We're going to keep this hand. This hand, it's missing some stuff to do in the middle, but it has some ramp, has an Urza's Saga. We find a Skilled Animator here too, which is a very strong card, of course. Opponent has a Junk Diver. And yeah, we just get to play our tap land here. We still have mana for the Urza's Saga. Opponent has Duretti, sure. And it's time to make some constructs as usual. And we get a Spell Bomb here to cantrip. And we can go ahead and pop it right away. We attack the Duretti for 5, forcing the opponent to block if they want to keep the Duretti. And now, yeah, end of turn here, I believe we are just going to crack the Spell Bomb. And the nice thing about this one too is it is an artifact for the constructs, but when we sack it and make a 1/1, it's still an artifact. So we don't reduce our construct count. And now it's time for a Precursor Golem. Speaking of artifact count, that's just a heaping pile of damage here. Attack the Duretti with one of them and attack the opponent with another one. We're not too worried about whether they have an answer. And they do take a bunch of damage here and they just concede. I mean, once again, constructs just represent so much board presence in this format. And Precursor Golem, sure, sometimes it backfires, but the rate on this card is pretty absurd. It really demands an answer or a wrath. Alright, here we are for game number 2 of the finals. And we have a pretty good hand. This time we have the other Tezzeret, which we have not seen very much this whole time. I'm going to lead on Marsh Flats here, presumably to find the Godless Shrine. Black mana for our Tezzeret. And we do. Now we have the Mirror, so we are setting up here for a turn 3 Tezzeret. Turn the Mirror into a 5/5, I suppose. But now the opponent has Duretti, and we find Traxos, which is just a better thing to play here. And then we have Tezzeret plus like Portable Hole if we want to do that next turn. So regardless of what happens here, I mean, we're in very good shape. The opponent has Duretti, spinning their wheels, they make a Nettle Cyst. Nettle Cyst is scary, it's, you know, a lot of damage. Here I believe we just go for the Precursor Golem. Tons of board presence once again. We're going to untap the Traxos with it, attack the Duretti for a convenient 7, and force the opponent to either chump with their Germ or let the Duretti die. They do chump with the Germ, which is fine. Nettle Cyst, very, very strong card in this format. And one of the strengths of it is being able to equip for pretty cheap. And I believe that's what's going to happen here. Okay, first they're doing a Duretti swamp, sure. And then they make a big Pilgrim's Eye, 8/8. Why not? And then they play a Talisman, sure. And so now I think we get to do some kind of tricky thing with Cathar Commando at instant speed, where we like blow up the Nettle Cyst, and then like the Traxos tramples over the Pilgrim's Eye. I don't remember exactly what I did here, so let's just watch and find out. Guess Portable Hole to start, probably remove the Construct. Seems like it makes sense. Sure. Should the opponent have tapped it in response? Yes, they should have, right? Because they have Witching Well here. So if they tap the Construct with Urza, but I guess they can't tap the Pilgrim's Eye because then they don't have it back as a blocker anymore. So never mind. They have to leave it back. I think this, yeah, it goes at the Duretti and we just send the rest to the opponent, I think. Yeah, and this is like pretty suspicious for sure. So the opponent is going to put the Pilgrim's Eye on the Traxos, of course, which is what we intended, and then we, yeah, we're able to do our tricky trample thing here, where we Cathar Commando, blow up the Nettle Cyst, which obviously gets rid of that, but then we also kill the Pilgrim's Eye and also kill the Duretti. So really good value for us here. They just throw the Urza in front of the Golem, that's fine. So unfortunately we're not really having a chance to Tezzeret so far, but the good news is we have a ton of board presence and the opponent is in major trouble. They play Krark Clan Ironworks, a pet card of mine. Not really sure what it does in this cube. I guess it sacks all your permanents and goes for an Urza spin? Yeah. And so the opponent then, let's see what happens here. They find a mountain. Yeah, the thing about Urza, very, very powerful card. I think people think that the spin part of it is what is powerful, and I mean, sure, there are times when that ability can be very good, but in a spot like this, I mean, the card construct is really the strength of the card. The spinning is just a little too random. It doesn't really dig you out of spots like this if you need it to. And so they just really go all in here on the Urza. They need like Austere Command or whatever to get out of this, and even then, you know, we still have stuff in hand. But unfortunately, they find Ensoul Artifact, which doesn't do anything here. So they turn their archive into a 5/5, and yeah, they scoop it up. So that was that draft. Another super powerful base Esper value deck. Lots of Tezzerets, Angel of the Ruins, insane magic card. Card constructs, once again, super, super powerful things to create in this format. So once again, with these two decks that I drafted, sure, I drafted a lot of the aggressive decks in this format, but it's really, really difficult for me to think that the Boros decks are actually more powerful than this Esper value late game deck, because every card just does so much. The Boros decks, I mean, each card individually is less impactful, where, you know, this is like sealed. You're just slamming haymaker after haymaker. So anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thank you once again for watching. It's going to do it for the Artifact Cube for this season. Hoping it'll be back on the alternative play calendar soon. We'll see. And regardless, we'll see you again soon.